Now, when we start to use different frequencies like 528 and above, we're actually starting to raise our frequency a little bit. So we're going up and beyond the lower frequencies that we've been associating and identifying ourselves with. And it's only through identifying and associating yourself with these lower frequencies is where disharmony comes from. Because all disharmony comes from disharmonious thought patterns. And disharmonious thought patterns have to do with the misidentification with body mind complex. Hello, my name is RJ Spina. I knew from the get-go that I was spirit or consciousness or whatever word you want to use, or the soul. So I grew up knowing that and being very, very detached from what goes on here. But the more profound or most profound experience really occurred April 23rd, 2016. I had been sick for many months um, with sepsis, and I had gone to the emergency room. I was feeling absolutely terrible. My back, I was in complete agony, and they literally told me that I had 48 hours to live. And upon trying to do an MRI for me, I literally became paralyzed right there in the emergency room. The infection, the sepsis, had developed into an abscess, and it literally was right on my spine, and it flattened and crushed my spine. And there's pictures of this on my website. You can actually see the MRI of my spine, and I became permanently paralyzed from the chest down. I was rushed into an emergency surgery. They performed something called a laminectomy, which is where they scrape the infection off your spine. And I woke up exactly at 3 a.m. And I remember looking at the clock, and I started touching myself to see if my body was still intact. And then when I got down to just where my chest starts to meet my upper torso, I couldn't feel anything. So I was told that I was permanently paralyzed. I was paralyzed before the surgery, and I was paralyzed after. And but upon awakening at that moment, I actually remembered how healing works. It came back to me like a muscle memory. And when I was a kid, I used to say all the time that if I ever get sick, I'll just heal myself. Now, I didn't know how it really worked when I was a kid, but I knew that I knew. But when I woke up from emergency life-saving surgery and I was paralyzed from the chest down, the remembrance came back to me. It's all of a sudden it was a tangible knowingness of exactly what to do. And in the ICU, I started explaining to the nurse exactly how self-healing and self-realization, enlightenment, how it actually works. That it's actually a process. It's a metaphysical process that anyone can go through. And I started telling her the specificities as to what I was going to do in order to unparalyze myself and heal myself of all the sepsis. I was diagnosed with several different diseases, and I told her right there in the room that in 100 days, exactly 100 days, I would walk on my own, completely unassisted, and I would be healed of all these different diseases and life-threatening conditions that I was experiencing. And on the 100th day, and I had the people at the hospital, the physical therapists, the nurses, and even the doctors film my healing because I knew no one was going to believe that it was absolutely true, even though I predicted it to the exact day. On the 100th day, I walked unassisted, and I showed no signs of any of the issues, the life-threatening conditions, the chronic diseases that I was diagnosed with. I don't have any of those. So when I woke up from that surgery, I really did wake up into authentic cosmic consciousness, and the remembering of self-healing actually was back in my hands. Even as a kid, I knew how to heal, but when I woke up, I could be specific about it. And the first book that I wrote, Supercharged Self Healing, is about the process of how to heal oneself. And since that book came out, I've helped thousands and thousands of people heal themselves from issues that they couldn't get any healing from, no matter what they tried for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, lifelong illnesses, that by using these understanding and these techniques, they've been able to heal themselves too. The ascend the frequencies healing technique, and they're different forms of meditation. I think the most important thing to understand about healing is that only the truth heals. And when we start to understand the truth about ourselves, we'll actually detach from our story. And that's really the key. The key understanding, or the foundational understanding, is to realize that we're the awareness of what is going on, not what we are aware of. So, in other words, to look at that, we must realize that the painter is not the painting. And so, whatever we're aware of, the thoughts, the emotions, the bodily sensations, that we're the awareness of those things, we're not those things. And so instead of us saying to ourselves, my trauma, my story, my thoughts, my emotions, we start to realize that you're the awareness of those things and you're not those things. And once you no longer identify with your story of trauma or anxiety or depression, and you start to get some space and a little bit of detachment from that, that energetic detachment is what allows these things to leave our body of energy, including our physical body as part of our larger body of energy. So once we start to get some space by just realizing the truth that we're the awareness of thoughts, emotions, actions, behaviors, bodily sensations, we're not those things. Painter is not the painting. This will give everyone the opportunity and the permission to finally let go of all these things that we have been misidentifying ourselves with. That is how healing actually begins. It's through no longer identifying with the story. And that will allow all these dense energies that we have held on to because of the mental misidentification with them, through the non-identification, they can come up and they can actually leave. And this is how healing begins. Well, it's a long-standing belief that there's rich people and there's poor people. Um, we often do incarnate to have certain experiences, and we map these experiences out. And sometimes we map out experiences of poverty, and sometimes we map out experiences of great wealth. And it's remember, we're just the awareness of these things. We're not actually those things. We're the awareness of those things. So ultimately, it's not really a big deal one way or another. But I would say when we start working with ourselves properly, we're going to move past the poverty mentality. And the things that we were just talking about before about manifestation, when we work with ourselves properly, remember the outer world is a mirror and an amplifier of whatever frequency that we're emanating. So if we start to hold the energy that we're not poor, that we are abundance, that whatever I desire is given, and we start to hold that energy and emanate that frequency, the universe can only match that and amplify it, because the multiverse is a multi-frequential, multi-dimensional hall of mirrors designed for self-mastery. So it simply amplifies and mirrors back whatever state of consciousness that we are in. So if we continue with the poverty mentality that everything is outside of me, that I have to chase everything, that I'm destined to be poor, then if that's what you're emanating, the universe will simply match that and mirror that for you. So the key is to know the truth that what we are, all of us, are whole and complete. We are not lacking anything. We are a fractal of God. And last I checked, God is not lacking anything either. So when we attune ourselves to that, our outside world will start to reflect that. So it has to do with our subconscious programming and this deep rooted belief that we're meant to be poor. Then the universe will simply mirror what it is that we're amplifying. It's how we learn about ourselves. Anyone can turn it around. Anybody. I have in my own life. I was permanently paralyzed from the chest down, told they had 48 hours to live, had no more money in the bank because every penny that I had was gone from medical care. I know exactly what it's like to start with insurmountable circumstances. I mean, insurmountable circumstances. And now my life is literally the polar opposite of that. How? Based upon what it is that we're talking about right now. So we have to remove these limiting beliefs, these limiting identifying beliefs that we have about poverty, and then ask ourselves, what energy would I have to be right now for this to manifest in my life? And when you hold that energy, when you maintain that energy, the universe will match it up. It doesn't matter what other people are doing, it's one consciousness. It's all one thing. Now, we lose that perspective when we're incarnate because we have this experience of separation. But as soon as we leave our body, and I came into this incarnation leaving my body, as soon as you leave your body, all the thoughts, all the emotions that you had during that incarnation, you will simply look back at your body and realize all those thoughts, all those emotions, and all those bodily sensations were not you. They were part of the suit that you just left. It'll be totally gone. The key is to liberate yourself while you're here of all those limiting beliefs, all of those low frequency emotions, all of those misidentifications, and to do it while you're still here incarnate. And this is when abundance and manifestation can happen like that. But we must be the energy. We must be the energy and be in alignment with what it is that we most desire. And when we say to ourselves, whatever I desire is given, and you have to let yourself feel that. You must let yourself feel that. And then watch what starts to happen because you're going to start emanating that frequency. The outer world will start to match it. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Self mastery is not a moving target that lies outside of the self. Don't compare. Don't waste your energy in comparing yourself to other people. Every single person is perfect, whole, and complete. Now they must simply align their body mind complex to that perfection, and then the outer world will exactly reflect that. So sometimes we use vibration and frequency interchangeably, and they're two very different things. So, vibration is another word for information, and that is actually what we really are. We are a wave, a vibration of information, and that information is actually our level of love and wisdom, whose subsets are our talents and abilities. That's actually what we are, and that's the fractal of God. Now, that divine intelligence, that level of love and wisdom, whose subsets and talents and abilities, is given energy, an amount of energy to create with. And that's the energy that we use to think, to emote, to animate our body, and then create experiences that our body has. But they're two completely separate things. And so when we start to realize this truth and we align our body mind complex to that divine intelligence, that vibration, that supremely high vibration that is a fractal of God, what happens is we raise in frequency. The body mind raises in frequency because we're aligning it, and you could think of this as self realization or enlightenment because it works in a very similar way. When we attune body mind and therefore our energies to this supreme vibration, we raise in frequency. Now, the higher the frequency that we can maintain, the more difficult it is for low frequency disharmony to remain within our field of energy and our consciousness. So healing actually takes place again, the truth, realizing the truth of what we really are, this divine intelligence, given energy to create. And this body, the physical body, is just also a body of energy that's vibrating within a very specific wavelength of frequencies or bandwidth of frequencies. By attuning ourselves to that, we raise in frequency. And by ascending the frequencies or going up in frequency, low frequency disharmony cannot stay within a high frequency environment. So when we start to understand that, and the ascended frequencies healing technique lays this out in ways that humanity has never really experienced before, through meditation, we can raise our frequency. And in raising our frequency, we're literally releasing and alchemizing all the low frequency disharmony that has been kept within our body mind complex. There are various frequencies, including 528 megahertz or frequencies, that actually do help raise our frequency. But true healing frequencies would be beyond our ability to physically hear them. So just like a dog can hear a whistle or sounds that we can't hear, true healing frequencies are beyond our physical sensory perception. So healing frequencies we wouldn't be able to hear with our physical ears. But that being said, these higher frequency tones do actually help a great deal because a lot of them are the same hertz that our chakra system are operating within, and it helps us reattune our chakras to their proper hertz or proper tuning. And the reason why that's important is because most of us we identify or misidentify with our body mind complex, and therefore we start to operate in a very low frequency way. Everything becomes about physical and material and thoughts and emotions and bodily sensations. So we're lowering our frequency by identifying with the physical and even including the mental and the emotional. Now, when we start to use different frequencies like 528 and above, we're actually starting to raise our frequency a little bit. So we're going up and beyond the lower frequencies that we've been associating and identifying ourselves with. And it's only through identifying and associating yourself with these lower frequencies is where disharmony comes from. Because all disharmony comes from disharmonious thought patterns. And disharmonious thought patterns have to do with the misidentification with body mind complex. And if we can come back to the first thing I said about the painter is not the painting. Now, if we start to identify with what it is that we're creating, everything that we're creating here is low frequency. So we start to lower our frequency, and this makes us susceptible to everything that goes on here, including sickness. So when we raise our frequency, and we can use tones to help raise our frequency, then we start to rise above the low frequency disharmony, and this in and of itself has a healing effect. The future of medicine is high frequency energy because low frequency disharmony cannot exist in a high frequency environment. So think of a hot tub. You turn on your hot tub. If you put something in the hot tub, it's going to get hot. So when we raise in frequency, whether we're using a technology, but nothing will ever compare to the technology of our own consciousness. So when we raise our frequency, our entire body of energy gets purified. It literally gets purified. And there's a reason why every authentic mystic and ascended master talks about two things, meditation and fasting. And meditation is always first. It's because they work. So when we meditate properly, we raise our frequency, and we're no longer putting in the idea of having to eat food, which lowers our frequency. When we can fast and meditate, there's a purification that takes place that is beyond what any kind of so-called medicine could ever do, and it's by raising our own frequency through meditation. I think 2024 is a year where humanity is going to see the manifestation of the choices that they have most recently made. So if we start working with ourselves properly, if we've made the choice to make a better life for ourselves, we're going to start to see the tangible effects of that in 2024. If we've made choices that we have given up, that there's no point in trying to improve, everything is just terrible, there's no point in trying to improve myself or improve my life, then we'll see the manifestation of those desires as well. So 2024 is going to amplify the choices that we've made, and it's never too late to change our desire and intention for a different outcome. So even if we've been beating ourselves up or saying how bad things are or how bad my life is, if we simply start to work with the teachings that I talk about, we will actually flip that around. It'll be a 180. And then your outer world will begin to reflect that. 2024 is the year where we see the manifestation of the choices that we have made. 2024 is ripe. It's ripe for tremendous business success, and it's ripe for success within love and friendship. It is absolutely ripe for those things. So all we have to do is work with ourselves properly, and the tangible results will be there for everybody. And when we talk about manifestation, I think there's a lot of profound misunderstanding in regards to how manifestation actually works. Without me going on and on, I can tell you that we don't. manifest based upon what we want. We manifest based upon who we are. So the more in tuned the idea, the concept, the alignment with who we really are, that is actually how we manifest. It's not based upon what you want. In fact, what you want's got nothing to do with anything. If you're emanating that you want something, the universe will mirror and amplify wanting, not manifestation. So it'll simply mirror and amplify whatever it is that we're emanating. So by wanting, we will just get more wanting. So we actually manifest based upon who we are. And what we really are, this divine intelligence, this sentience, this consciousness, or what's been called the I am is infinite abundance. It's a fractal of God. So when we know ourselves truthfully as that, the outside world will reflect that abundance. And that has nothing to do with wants. That has absolutely nothing to do with wants. And this is why I said there's a profound amount of misinformation in terms about how manifestation really works. I teach a course called Vibrational Engineering, the Metaphysics of Manifestation. Now, these are the enlightened metaphysics of how manifestation actually works. Just like I manifested my health by putting a completely destroyed and permanently paralyzed body back together, manifestation, when you understand it deeply, it all works the same way, whether it's health, wealth, love, friendships, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing to remember is that we don't manifest based upon what we want. We manifest based upon who we are. We cannot manifest what we want until we understand the true enlightened metaphysics of how it actually works. If we can think of the outer world, the so-called outer world, as a mirror and amplifier of whatever frequency we are emanating. So if we want to create a life of abundance, we would have to attune our body mind to the infinite I am, or consciousness, or the indirect or direct fractal of God that we actually are. And that's why I said about only the truth heals. And in terms of healing and manifesting your health, manifesting wealth, manifesting love, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not about what you want. It's about attuning yourself to who you really are. And who we really are is infinite abundance. But that takes the progression of moving past the identification with the ego mind identity, which is identifying with the body. And then we reduce ourselves to what I call body consciousness, and therefore we reduce ourselves to the low frequencies that the body is part of and attuned to. There's no way to manifest properly or powerfully when we're only attuned to the local low frequency environment. Powerful manifestation occurs when there's alignment with the I am, which is the direct fractal of God. I want to thank Vivian and Life After Life podcast. It's been a fantastic conversation. If you're interested or moved in some of the things that I've talked about, you can visit my website, which is ascendthefrequencies.com. I have my first two books are out. My third book you can pre-order. Just go to Amazon and actually just type in RJ Spina, and you'll see the books come up. And also on the website, my entire 2024 schedule is posted there. I'll be doing some live in-person events